There we go. Nearly forgot once again. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'll waffle a bit until I see my image come through because it's always so disconcerting. There we are. And it's good to see so many of you in here tonight. I'm not going to do a run through of all the names because we've already got 59 people watching, which is great. Let me just move this window aside. Well, what a kerfuffle we've had this past week or so. All the Black Swan stuff. Videos going backwards and forwards. And only a couple hours ago, I sent or put a comment on one of them to Anthony Riley, Sleeping Warrior, just saying, hey, I've got a live stream tonight. Do you want to come on? And to be honest, I wasn't even 100% sure he'd get the comment in time, let alone agree to come on. That's such short notice. However, he has. And he has turned up, and I can see him in there, in the green room, waiting to come on, which is wonderful. Tony, thank you. Just to make clear to everyone, this is not a formal debate, okay? Because it's unfair on me, it's unfair on Tony. Neither of us have had time to prepare for it, so it's not that sort of thing tonight. It'll be a bit of a chat. To be honest, I want to try and find out something about Tony as well. But I am sure we're going to be talking about that dead black swan that we think is dead and he thinks is swimming quite happily and he's feeding it bits of bread and whatnot. I did say to Tony that I'll bring him in a couple of minutes because I had a couple of announcements or an announcement to make. But I want to make it at a certain time. Is Osvaldo Greco in the house? I think he's going to be coming tonight. If he's not here yet, can people put a comment or get him to put a comment tagged on me when he arrives? Because I just got something to announce at some point when he's here. I hope you've all been fine. I've had a really busy week. As you know, I had that debate with Mitchell from Australia on Fight the Flat Earth. More may happen with that at a later point. He has agreed that he would debate again, which is good. So I'm getting distracted by the chat. I see it's quite busy already, which is nice. So anyway, I had that. I did the video, my video with the ball Black Swan killer, which then both Anthony and Oakley did response videos. I did a counter response. They've both done counter responses. And at this point, I thought, as I said, hey, why not just ask him, see if he'll come on? And he has. So props to you, Tony, for that. Because, you know, it's a channel from the other side. And as I said, it was such short notice. So thank you. I think, unless is Osvaldo in so far, just having a quick look, see if I can see him. If he's not, I'll announce anyway, but it would be nice if he was here at the time. There we go. Right, I think then, I'll give him a few seconds warning. I think we'll see if we can get Anthony on the channel. Let me just get prepped. I'll drag him over. I'll give him a few seconds because then he'll get warning. He should be able to hear me. And let's bring him on. I've just pulled him over into the room. Let me switch on the sound. Hello, Anthony. Oh, he's got his mic and headphones disabled. Hello, Anthony.
Yo, yo.
Good evening, and thank you very much. As I was just saying, thank you very much for agreeing to come on at such ridiculously short notice.
Yeah, it was about 6 o'clock this evening, wasn't it? 5:30ish?
Something like that. I've made clear, and as you can see, I've put a title across the top that you're the guest, but it's not a formal debate because neither of us have had time to think about it and prepare for anything formal.
So you said in the lead into this that you think that I'm feeding the dead swan.
Well, no, I say that we think it's dead, but you think it's happily swimming, and you guys are happily feeding it.
So we must have a men are from Venus, women are from Mars situation here, because I don't know how you can possibly think it's dead. Do you want to run me through how you think it's dead?
Oh, we're getting straight into this then. Straight into
it.
Yeah,
why not? Why not?
Okay. Right. Let's just take our position that the Earth is a sphere, okay? Then if you're stood on that sphere, looking at a tangent across it, there will be a point that you can't see beyond. That would be your geometric horizon. Would you agree with that?
No.
Oh, okay. Can I ask you why?
Are we talking about an Earth with air and atmosphere and stuff that we breathe, or are we talking about an Earth with no atmosphere?
Okay, let's start with no atmosphere first. Then no atmosphere. That's fair enough. Yeah. So no atmosphere. If you're
okay, then
yeah, go on.
Then it'd be the actual horizon, the geometric sphere
horizon.
edge.
Yeah. So that is what the geometric horizon would be, isn't it? With absolutely no distortion at all, because we, in our example we're just talking about, we have no atmosphere. We agree on that.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So can I ask, do you accept refraction at all?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, so if we pop an atmosphere on our Earth, refraction varies. You would agree that as well?
Yeah, it continuously varies, yes.
Okay, so sometimes
Super chat.
Sorry,
Excellent.
I just had a super chat come through. It just distracted me. Sometimes the refraction would, if you like, be positive, sometimes negative, sometimes it would be exactly the right point to match up with the geometric. Would you agree that?
Well, Soundly showed in his little Tensor Spy time-lapse video that when he was putting all his lights along the bridge stanchions, he was doing, I think it was a 6 or a 7 mile observation. He put a lamp on each stanchion at each mile long. It was roughly a mile. It wasn't exactly. But
was this across the ice?
No, Soundly's little Tensor Spy.
I've not seen it then. Not seen that one.
That's okay. I could show it you. It's on my channel. I used it against him because it supported our assertions. All the lights that he had dancing up and down on the stanchions at every mile marker, there was 5 or 6 of them. They were all independently dancing along the length at every point. So imagine if you had, instead of just 5 or 6, imagine you had 10, 15, 20, 50, right the way up to 7 miles. They would all be interactively independent and interacting like all by themselves. Some of them would be moving up, some of them would be moving down. So you're right in that it's a continuously variable thing. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, but it's at every single point along the path. It's not following a particular pattern, it's independent.
So if you were looking at the furthest one, the one closest to wherever the geometric horizon is, that particular one is going to be distorted by X. But then
they're all going to be distorted by X, aren't they? Because it's the path that...
Okay, I must admit, and see, having not seen that video, I'm finding it hard to picture what you're getting at. Can we go back? Can we just carry on with just running through to see where we can get to before we fundamentally disagree?
Well, I think we've just found it, haven't we? It's the point where the light all starts to behave however it behaves. But I think we could both agree that the light behaves the same on both models. Is that a fair statement?
Sorry, flat and spherical?
Yeah, regardless of the shape of the Earth, the way that light behaves, it'll behave the same on both models. It'll dance up and down, it'll do what it does, however, influenced by temperature, humidity, density, all the things that influence the real world light.
I would agree that on a flat model there would still be refraction, but for any given temperature, any given temperature gradient, you would have different refraction. Just because the angles would be different. So from coming across a flat sphere, if the light was travelling up at 1 degree and then bounces down at 1 degree, that would be different than if it was on a sphere and you were slightly around a curve, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, but with regards to the behaviour of light itself, regardless of the shape of the Earth, it does some weird and wonderful things. We should both be able to agree that, regardless of the shape of the Earth.
Well, light can get bent. I'd agree that.
Do you agree that light follows Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light, where it deviates from a straight path in all directions at all points along the path, and it deviates, and I'll quote, from a straight line? Do you agree with that?
What do you mean, from the source object?
The path that the light takes from A to B, right? It comes into your eye or into the sensor of the camera from the oil platforms. At every point along that path, the light's deviating from straight at every single point. That's what Fermat, because it says Fermat's principle states that it's the path that the light travels in the least amount of time. Well, I would say that that's never ever going to be a curve because a straight line is always the least amount of time.
Well, the light. What I would say is from your platform, from your platform. That let's say the one at 9.5 miles, whatever it is, the further one, the light travels in a straight line and is then refracted downwards, and that happens to then meet your eye.
But if it was refracting downwards, that would create a gradual curve, right?
Right.
That's not what Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light states. It states that it will take the path that takes the least amount of time. If it was doing that, according to Fermat, it would be a straight line from A to B, but no curve. It wouldn't be the way you're saying.
Well, I think to be honest, I think we're getting away from this whole thing about the black swan with regard to my demonstration and you guys' response to that demonstration. Because with the first demo I did with the actual tin tack, I was not trying to loom or do anything with the tin tack itself. You had the tin tack, an area of yellow behind it, and then an area of blue or purple, depending on your colour blindness, beyond that. And with that lens, we were able to not only see the yellow, but see some of the purple that was beyond the tin tack. Now, that was what I was originally saying, but then you and Oakley both came up with response videos to that, didn't you?
Sure, but I mean, I think it makes sense, given that it's our assertion. Maybe we should start with our assertion first. Could we start with our assertion and then see where that takes us?
See if I can say whether my demonstrations have shown anything about your assertion. Okay, go ahead.
So, would you agree that... I tell you what, let's do what John suggests. Quantum Eraser says get them to recite the arguments so that you both understand the argument from the start. I actually agree with that. If we're on the same page to start with, there's only one place this can go, and that's the reason why it's been formulated using modus tollens. So, would you mind? And if you can't, just tell me and I'll do it.
Okay. My understanding of your claim, is that according to the calculations for the size of the Earth, those platforms would have been beyond the geometric horizon, and yet not only could you see the platforms, you could see ocean and a horizon beyond those platforms. Is that it in a nutshell?
Not really. It's formulated using modus tollens, and it starts with if the Earth is a sphere of a given size, then at a given height, then the horizon has to be at a set height. The horizon has to be at a set distance.
So when you put geometric horizon, can we be clear each time if you're saying geometric? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if the Earth is a sphere of 24,980 whatever it is miles, that gives us a radius that we can calculate. Now it means that if the observer is stood at less than 1 foot, which he was, I know Rumpus claimed it was 5 feet, but I think John calculated it with 5 as well. But we're all going with 1 because not many people agree with Rumpus that it was 5 feet. Most people accept it was right on the water, it was a foot. The horizon is geometrically locked. The geometric horizon is locked at 1.2 miles from a foot high. Now, if the Earth is a sphere of that size and the horizon is set at 1.2 miles, why do we see the horizon behind the second platform? Because that's in modus tollens. That means that it is not at 1.2 miles, it's actually at 10 miles. Therefore, the Earth cannot be a sphere of a certain size. So that's why we formulate it that way.
Right. So I would agree that assuming 1 foot, that the horizon is at that calculated or a calculated distance, and let's say 1.2 miles. That's where the geometric horizon is. However, with refraction, the light from beyond that geometric horizon is being bent round so that you can see it. If you can see it, then it's in your field of vision. So what was beyond that horizon? The platforms, so you can see them. What was beyond those platforms? Some water, so you can see it. And eventually you reach the point where the bend of the light with a K value, I can't go into all the maths of K values because I'm not a mathematician, but the bent light, eventually you reach a point where it's not bending enough, so you see an apparent horizon.
The problem you've got is on Mick West's magic curve calculator, when you put in the numbers, 10 miles, 1 foot observer height, he actually calculates for your standard refraction, and it changes it from 1.2 miles to a measly 1.3 miles, which is kind of consistent with the video that you demonstrated.
So, I just heard that. Do you want a wee?
The dog's asking me to go out for a wee.
It's all right. Hey, we're not going to go into bottles and all that sort of stuff, Anthony.
He just heard you say, do you want a wee?
It's all right. Don't you worry.
No, it's not. I'm just telling her that she's live and she doesn't realise she's live because she can't hear you. You see, I've got earplugs in.
Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, you're saying about using standard refraction. That's right.
Yeah.
But you also note that it says the calculations are not accurate for use low over water and near the horizon.
Yeah, of course. And that, do you know hang on. Do you know the historical reason for why that's there? And it doesn't matter if you don't. Would you agree that if it's not accurate, what value does it have?
Well, no, because it has limited value if you're. Although it also says unless an accurate temperature gradient is known, but. Either way, it's useful under certain circumstances, not all.
Well, it's not useful under any because it says that not accurate for observations close to the horizon. So all observations that we do are very close to the horizon.
Yeah, but there must be other people want to work out a curve without the horizon. But I mean there are, what's the word? Those are the things you've got to watch out for anyway. According to that, the calculation is with standard refraction, which may not apply because you may have unusual conditions. You need to know an accurate temperature gradient, and it's not accurate over water and near the horizon.
Okay, so we know that if it obviously doesn't, standard refraction obviously doesn't cover it because it moves the horizon to the geometric horizon from 1.2 miles to a lofty 1.3 miles.
Okay,
we see the horizon at 10.
Just to jump in. So if it's moved it from 1.2 to whatever it was, would you agree?
1.3.
Okay. And I know that it's not much more. I've used it as well. But would you agree that if that was the refraction on that day, and that's the distance you were looking, would you agree that that is then an apparent horizon?
Are you talking about if the picture wasn't the way we see it?
Yeah. Forget your picture for a second. So if you had the perfect day with the refraction with a K value of 1 or whichever it is, which means it matches the geometric, that's 1.2 miles. Later on that day, it's changed, and now you've got the standard level of refraction, and you're looking 1.3 or whatever. That is then an apparent horizon.
All horizons are apparent.
Yes, technically yes, even if they match the geometric. Okay, oh, sorry, you said all horizons are apparent. Okay, so you agree in such a thing as an apparent horizon, just to get that out the way.
Well, the horizon is defined by definition as apparent.
Well, we only ever see the apparent, don't we? Even if it matches the geometric, we wouldn't know by eye.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I think to be honest, we pretty much agree on that.
Yeah, but you're saying that, though, as though that's a point that we can agree on. But actually, it devastates your argument if you agree with that. Because we never, ever see a horizon that's consistent with your model. And even if it was, we could never validate or verify that the horizon that we're seeing that's supposed to be consistent with your K value of 2 rather than 1, we could never we could never validate or verify that is still the curved horizon that we're observing. You're only telling us it's curved because it matches your model.
I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. I mean, the Earth has a physical size, and as we said, without an atmosphere, we could calculate that with that curve, you could see 1.2 miles, assuming no lumps and bumps and dips and all that sort of thing.
Sure. But the problem is, if you're going to argue that if on certain occasions the K value of 2, as MC Toon calculates for, matches the curvature of the Earth and therefore you can see infinitely far, if you're going to argue that means that we then see the horizon at 1.2 because of the conditions at the time, then the fact that we never see that means that we would never be able to tell whether we were looking at a geometric curve or not. Because on the one occasion...
Sorry.
Hang on, because on the one occasion... On the one occasion where it seems to match your model, just because it matches your model does not mean it's a geometric curve, because the refractive conditions at the time happen to support your model. It doesn't mean it's a curve, it just matches your model.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying because there's refraction that proves the globe. What I'm saying is, based on other evidence, I would say it's a globe with and so therefore there is a geometric horizon, but because we're looking through atmosphere, it's always distorted to a greater or lesser extent. Sometimes it would happen to match the geometric, but just by eye, you would never know. That's all I'm saying.
I would agree with that, but would you that it therefore follows then that you must agree that this is fundamentally, well, at least on this point, it's an argument of equivalence in the sense that sometimes it appears to be curvy, sometimes it appears to be flat. Can you agree to that?
No. Why do you say sometimes it appear to be flat?
Well, what's the explanation for the appearance of the horizon behind 10 miles, and it fade into nothing if it's not to be described as appearing flat?
Right, so we're now getting on to the black swan, yeah?
Sure.
I would say, for instance, you must have seen those other photos with the horizon well in front of both platforms, cutting off all the legs, I think even of the nearest platform. You must have seen that photo.
Absolutely.
Okay, so can I ask how you would explain that?
Easy.
Go on then.
If the light's not coming to your eye and it's bending into the floor as you would describe it before it gets to your eye, the light ray from the bottom of the platforms is not getting into your eye. It's missing your eye. Now, and that's the first explanation. If there's an incoming tide, because he is on the shoreline and the tide does come in, if there's an incoming tide and he's close to the water surface, it only takes a small amount of water to start building up against the incoming tide and buffering against the shoreline to start ramping up.
Hold on a minute, though. If you were taking it as a flat Earth, the tide comes up, and perhaps he has to move further up the beach, whichever, but he is still looking level across the water. So, okay, the tide comes up a bit. Some of those
No. If you watch how
hiding half the platform.
Well, if you watch how wave machines work when they hit barriers and obstructions, because there's water volume and the water volume is running up against the obstruction, it causes it to resist because it's a slope. And when it starts to resist, you've got the water pushing from behind it, you've got the resistance of the shoreline pushing it back. That creates a concertina effect because you've got two things pushing in different directions.
Right.
And where does that pressure go?
Right. That you're talking about how waves form when it comes into the yeah. So in which case, you should be able to take that photo of that platform showing half of it missing every day, twice a day, when the tide is right.
But you should be able to show a geometric horizon all the time.
Why? No, because it's distorted all the time. You've agreed that there's distortion.
No, but right. So the geometric horizon is 1.2 miles, but the standard refracted horizon is a measly 1.3. That differential is only 0.1 of a mile. It's negligible, but you should be able to show that time and time and time again. However, you rely on refraction. Yet BMLSL 69 has gone back for a third time just today, and he's got the horizon again behind the third platform. But this time he's demonstrating stooping, and he's got the platforms are all squashed, not towered because they're not stretched, they're squashed, stooping, and that's a known refractive definition. It's a known refractive thing, and he shows that even with stooping and squashing, the horizon still appears behind the second thing. Now you would argue, oh, it's just refraction again, and I would say, yeah, but it's stooping. It's not refraction as in looming because we can see that it's squashing, and that's got a defined term. So we looming.
Hello, Tony.
Not one of the things we need to.
Sorry, pal, you dropped out for a second then. Tony? Hello? Oh no, we seem to have lost Tony. He is in there. Tony, I hope you can hear me.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you can in. I'll tell you what, Tony, do us a favour. Just try.
Don't know.
Yeah, do you want to just drop out a minute? Come back into the. If you reload Discord or whatever, come back into the waiting room. I'll pull you in, and I'll take this opportunity to do that announcement thing I wanted to do. Is that okay? Maybe it'll okay, he's done that. Right, Osvaldo Greco. I want to say a big thanks to Osvaldo Greco because he gave me a little gift. Let me just make sure I'm looking at the right thing. Osvaldo drew this. Absolutely fantastic. Over the moon with that. As you can see, there's little old me and Arnold. Look at those ears on that spacesuit. Absolutely fabulous. I am over the moon with that. Absolutely over the moon. So what I'm going to do, Oz, right now, it's going to have a place on the wall. Oh, absolutely fantastic, Oz. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully that's pretty good timing. Hopefully Anthony's back and all sorted out. Hello, Anthony.
Hey, just before we start back into it, let me just ask you a question. Lizzie Beth in your chat says, a flat earth has no horizon. So if a horizon, then no flat earth. Do you agree with Lizzie Beth?
I would have to say that, I mean, sometimes we can see really, really crisp horizons. Like, for instance, that one with the horizon in front of the platforms. Never mind the distance, how far away it is, but it's a really crisp horizon. And actually, it's a horizon that's closer than the nearest platform, 6.5 miles.
Yeah, but hang on. Do you think that...
Well, I was going to say, I would find it hard to equate that with a flat earth, because my expectation would be that you're going to see a bloody long way, because there's nothing to get in the way, and to eventually everything fades into an unresolvable blur. That's what I would think.
So you don't think a flat earth has a horizon, really?
I would think that if it was perfectly flat, and let's say you're at the edge of the Pacific Ocean or something, so it's several thousand miles, you are always going to see... Well, it's going to... That's where your horizon would rise up, and it will reach an unresolvable blur. But you would certainly never see a ship go over that horizon, or if it went out of sight, you could pull it back with a telescope. But we do see ships go beyond the horizon, and you can't pull them back with a telescope.
So is the answer to my question yes? You think a flat Earth would have no horizon?
I think it would be an unresolvable blur. So that
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that basically means no, you don't think there would be a horizon on a flat Earth?
Not a crisp horizon. Never a crisp horizon like that.
So, if you look down a tunnel and it's perfectly straight,
yep.
Do you not agree that everything appears to focus at the middle and it's our point of convergence?
Of course, yes.
Well, that would be your horizon if it was landscape.
But it would, looking down that tunnel, let's say that there's pillars or something all the way down, they would get shorter and shorter and closer together until you couldn't tell the difference from one to the next. It would be an unresolvable point.
That's right, and that's what we see. But
what we actually see is more like with that Pontchartrain power line going across the lake. The furthest ones, they got smaller and smaller, but they're actually then going downwards as they're going over that curve.
So you think the Pontchartrain pylons are proof of curvature?
I do think they show curvature. Yes.
Right, that shocks me. Okay, so do you know there's two names for the phenomena that I'm about to describe? Three. One would be an inferior mirage, another would be dirtier, and a third one would be ether band.
Right,
are you familiar with that?
Let me just note those three down you mentioned. What was it? Mirage?
Yeah, inferior mirage.
Dirty air. And what was your third?
An ether band. Depending on what part of the conversation you're into, depending on how long you've been in this topic, you'll know them as one of them three.
Right. Well, with mirage, that would change depending on the conditions.
No, but my point is, do you agree that there's always a mirage of some kind, be it inferior or superior, and the name of the mirage is often, like, because dirty air and ether band are colloquialisms for the same effect.
Well,
do you agree? Hang on. Do you agree that the horizon is always masked by some element of inferior or superior mirage?
First thing, Tony, someone said to me before, you watch out for Tony, he'll say, do you agree? Do you agree? And you said, do you agree, quite a lot. What I would say is, a mirage, to my understanding, is a specific type or types of distortion due to refraction. Like you get superior, inferior, and God knows what else.
Yeah, but my
Whereas,
question's specific. Do you agree that the horizon has always got an element of mirage to it?
oh, hold on, I thought you were talking about just the Pontchartrain things at this point.
Horizon in general, the word
Okay,
horizon has
all right.
got an element of some.
What I would agree is there is a fixed geometric horizon, a calculated distance away. We're saying it's 1.2 at a foot high. With air, we get distortion, refraction, which changes your apparent view, giving you an apparent horizon. Depending on the level of the distortion, you can see further still, and even to the extent where you get things like those mirages floating in the air, and something like the Chicago skyline. You look on an ordinary day, you will not see it, and then there's that one occasion every however often it happens where you get a beautiful view of Chicago right across the lake, but you don't see it other times. But it's not because of clarity of air or anything like that. This is it, Tony. If it changes, then it's got to be down to the atmosphere, hasn't it?
Right, you've not answered my question,
Oh,
and I really want you to answer it.
Okay, I'm not trying to avoid your question. Perhaps I'm misunderstanding your question. Okay, I wouldn't try and avoid it. Try
Right.
again. Rephrase it, maybe.
Do you think the horizon has some element of superior or inferior mirage always? Yes or no?
I would have to say, Tony, I can't answer that yes or no. Not because, but I would say there is always some element of distortion.
Yeah.
Whether that counts as a superior or an inferior, I don't. I actually don't know. So it's not. I'm trying to avoid it, but I would
Right.
say there is always some distortion.
So this always some distortion, right? It
Yes.
varies. Sometimes there's a big thick band of it, sometimes it's less of a band, but it's always there. Now when it's refracting the sky, you can't tell when it's there or not unless there's a boat on it. But when it's refracting the water up, the boat that you think you're looking at that should be there is not there because there's a refracted horizon above it called a fata brumosa. So my point is, it doesn't matter about the names. My point is, when you say that if the Earth is flat, there shouldn't be a horizon, yet every horizon that we ever look at is apparent by definition and is subject to refractive effects known as mirages to some degree or a lot of a degree, then we don't have a point that is defined clearly for a ball or for a flat Earth because it's completely destroyed by the perception of what we call dirty air, ether band, mirages. There's this element, this area of land it's called the circle of confusion, Aries diffraction. It all blends into one mush. Now that's the convergence point for us, but there's no explanation for that on a sphere Earth because if the horizon's only 1.2 miles away and you're going to say, well, it's refraction, well, that type of refraction needs to be explained because we need to know what type of refraction is it and how does it work. And we know that looming, which is the common answer that we get back from you guys, has a defined...
It's a common form of refraction.
It is a common form of refraction, but you guys don't apply what the meanings for looming is. You change the meanings of the word looming, and you give it the one that suits your narrative, but it's not actually the one that's defined.
Well, no, there is different types. I mean, like I would be saying that photo with the rigs and beyond was loomed up, whereas towering is something slightly different. Towering is something slightly different. In fact, I do think looking at those two rigs, there is some towering because one looks more vertically stretched than the other, and you've got to admit that especially the left one, the further rig, that was distorted to buggery. The cranes were twisted and bent all over the place.
No, it wasn't distorted to buggery. Right, first off, towering. Towering is the flat Earth version of looming. Obviously, it's just not looming behind an Earth.
Towering is something different. I can find you. I actually came across an interesting. Have you got a view? Sorry, Tony. I will let you finish. But have you got a view of this stream so you can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Carry on. Then.
Towering is just stretching. We see it in the. Are you familiar with the Skunk Bay footage?
Don't think so.
Oh man, right. We need the Skunk Bay footage. I'm gonna have to send you. You're gonna have to play this for your audience so that I know that you can see it. This is the Skunk Bay footage gives us everything for refraction. It shows us towering, it shows us stooping, it shows us looming, it shows us superior mirage, inferior mirage. Everything's in it in about a 2-minute clip because it's a time lapse of a whole day of a horizon, and it's got two horizons. There's a peninsula of land in the middle ground, plus summit in the back, a mountain in the background.
Is this on YouTube, Tony?
Yeah, I'll give you a link. Let me just dig it out of mine.
Because I would also like, before we look at that, to go through... where the hell is it? I want to go through your response video to me.
Sure, but if we can agree that the horizon is not geometric and it's apparent, then that creates you a big problem.
I will agree that what we see is the apparent horizon, not the geometric horizon.
Right, so if it's not the geometric horizon, then boats can't be going over it because it must flatten out as a function of refraction on your model, right?
No, what I would say is boats will be beyond, or can be beyond, the geometric horizon, and due to the amount of refraction, they may be loomed totally into view, or maybe only partly.
No, but as you demonstrated in your video, you can't loom an object. You can only loom part of an object, and it stretches disproportionately when you do it.
Right. Well, two things. One, I actually think that scale is a big problem, and I honestly don't think you have concept of scale. I want to talk. I'm not being rude. I want to talk about that, and maybe you can persuade me you do, because on my model, the ball, where from the first video, where I lifted the purple area beyond the tack. You do realise that the thickness of the ink on that ball would be taller than those rigs.
You'll have to walk me through it, because what I saw, I couldn't actually work out what you were refracting up there. I assumed I was looking at the tack that was on the window ledge behind. Is that what you were refracting up?
Well, okay. Let me just call it up, and I'll take you through it, because we don't have to watch it all. I can skip to the relevant bits.
Just get to the the blue purple bit. I don't even know what you were referring to there. If I'm honest.
Fair enough. That's not a problem. Let me just go to it.
Is it part of the ball that you're bringing back up?
Hold on a second. I have got it here. Let's make right. I'm just going to get that coming through. Let me pause it. Let me get it resized. Tell me. Oh, I should be able to see when it comes through. You tell me when you can see it. It should be coming through any second. Yeah, I'm not sure how far behind we are.
About 5, 6, it's 7 seconds.
Just coming through
8
now.
seconds.
Okay.
9 seconds. Right, I see it now. Yeah.
Right. So let me skip forward because I show. Oh, hold on. Is this the? This is the first video, isn't it? Where is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong bit now. Right, the bit that I've just paused on now, the camera in the top right. I'm a bit in the way on here. Can you see? You got the tack. So not the large picture, the small picture. You got the tack, and you've got all the logo sort of stuff on it. Okay. So that purpley logo stuff is way beyond the tack. There's a distance of what it looks like about 3 rows of dimples. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, I do. Oh right, I see what you mean now. Okay. I thought you were refracting some on the window ledge behind.
Right. So you've got both, because you've got. Can you see that down on the window ledge as well? There's a second tack with a white flag.
Just give me 1 sec. I just need to get my dog on the sofa. 1 sec.
Okay.
Sorry, he's nestling in for the night. Right, he's fine now.
That's right. Right, yeah. So can you see the tack on the window ledge as well, with the little white flag on it?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So let me take it forward to the point where I'm going to bring the lens in. Right. So now I'm pausing it just where the lens is starting to come in. Okay. So that will come through shortly. And this is looking through the bottom of the lens, and you can see the base of the tack, the top of the base of the tack is lined up with the horizon. You can see a little bit of yellow that's beyond the tack. Have you got all that?
Not yet. I'm waiting for it to come through.
Right. Oh, see, it's just coming through. Yeah, so you should see the tack, the top of the tack lined up with the horizon, and the ocean, the yellow ocean, is sort of wrapped round it and just beyond it. And
not yet.
Okay, hopefully it'll come through. So that's the point where the lens is just starting to get in between.
I'm looking on the main camera, aren't I? That's what I'm waiting to come on.
What you should have, yes, on the big camera.
Yeah, I've not got that yet. I'm not on pause either. Am I behind?
Hopefully. So in the picture-in-picture, you can see me holding the lens just...
I can, yeah.
Yeah, just between. And on the main picture, all you've got is the arc, the yellow arc with the tack. The top of the tack
That's
is
right.
lined up visually with that horizon. You can tell that there is yellow ocean beyond that tack, between it and the horizon, yes?
Sure,
Right.
sure.
And then if I just whiz it onto... I've now whizzed it on to... Oh, once I'm applying my full refraction, so it's going to obviously take a little while to get to you. And so
Yeah.
I'd like to know what you think once you see that. There's two. I know this is a bit difficult. You're going to be delayed.
No, it's okay. I've got it. I get it. I see what you're saying. What do I think about that? It's consistent with the refraction thing on your calculator, where it goes from 1.2 to 1.3. It goes up a minuscule amount.
Right.
But what you need to be showing is the horizon in front of the tack, and then going 10 miles further back.
Right. So we will come on to that in a minute, Tony. So what you can see there now is you've got all of the yellow between the tack and the blue or purple, and some of that purple. So I have loomed an area that is beyond the tack. Would you agree? Refracted it upwards.
No, not loomed. No.
Okay. Well, I have refracted it upwards by whatever definition of refraction. Would you agree? It's refracted up.
I would say it's refracted up. Yes,
Okay.
you used a lens to do it.
Okay. Yeah. And can you see just beyond that tack on the window ledge? You can see that white area now. That's been lifted as well.
The white area,
if you see the
two
tack,
triangles.
No. Yes. That is that little flag on a tack that was on the window ledge. So it was two.
Is it?
Yeah. Let me take it back a bit, and you can see it move into. So I'm going to take it back, and I'm going to press play. So again, it's going to take it a little while to feed through. You'll see the tack. I'm applying, and as it lifts, it becomes quite clear that it's the white. So hopefully that will start coming through to you in a second. Because what I think is crucial here, because you said about this... Oh, I see the play's just about to come through. So tell me when you've... I'll let you have a look at that. You see all that?
It seems to have stopped.
Well, it's only a short bit, about 5 seconds. It shows...
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, okay. So the point was, to my demonstration, you had a tack purely to mark a point, so you had something to visually gauge what was happening against. With the lens, I have lifted, I'll use that word in the general sense, lifted an area that had been beyond that curve, the purple area, and to such an extent that it even lifted the white flag on the tack on the window ledge. But you said about this horizon before, in front of and behind, because that was your initial debunk, and Oakley's, wasn't it? Saying, yeah, okay. And then I did the second thing with that little flint tower.
But you're not getting the distances right here, though. This is the point.
But Tony, this is crucial. That tack, I don't know if you saw all my video. The second video, that tack. If you scaled this ball up, assume this ball was a metre diameter circumference. That tack is 800 kilometres tall. That's the sort of scale we're talking about. That tack...
Yeah, but we're not talking about the vertical aspect. We're talking about the distance on the z-axis.
Yes, but look at the base. That base is 5 millimetres across. That's 200 kilometres. So
it's a red herring. It's not the point we're making, and it's not the point you should be debunking.
So what I'm saying is, let's say I put that... I mean, it's not why I put a tack there, but if I put that tack just beyond the horizon, okay... What you would be asking me to do with my lens is to push that horizon back behind the tack over 200 kilometres. That's just from front to the back of the base of the tack, let alone some ocean beyond. Do you see what I'm saying about scale?
I'm asking...
Sorry, mate, you're dropping out again.
The system horizon should be 1 point...
Yes, I do apologise, Tony. You dropped out in that response. Do you want to say it again? Tony. I don't know if you want to just come out.
Yeah, I am here, but let me pull up my taskbar.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. You're dropping out a bit now. If you want to jump out and back in again, that's fine. I'll pull you straight back into live so we can carry on where we left off.
No, I think I'm still here. I'm just checking my own signal and make sure that my signal's working.
Okay. So what I was saying is, if I moved that horizon from in front of that tack to some distance beyond, I would be moving it an equivalent of over 200 miles scaled up.
No.
Why?
It's not about the distance in miles. You need to do it as a ratio because the ratio is the important bit. The ratio of your model from 1.2 miles to 1.3 miles is negligible, right? But you've got to get the horizon that's in the foreground at 1 mile, 1 unit, to appear 10 units behind the tack that you put at 10 miles.
So what is a unit?
That's the point.
What is a unit?
Relative. You can use anything you want. You can use dimples, or you can use millimeters or centimeters. It doesn't matter what unit, as long as it's relative to each other as a 10-to-1 ratio. That's what you need to demonstrate. Well, if you've got the ball there now, you could probably do it now.
No, if you looked at all that second video where I did the calculations, I know I was cheeky to you and I was downright rude to Oakley, but I think you deserve a little bit of cheeky. He deserves a lot of downright rude. But leaving that aside, you'd suggested that 10 dimples. Those dimples equivalent work out to be 100 kilometres each on that scale.
It doesn't matter. It's a 10-to-1 scale.
Okay, I think it's time to look at your video. You okay if we look at your video a sec, and I'll explain what I mean? Okay, right. I'll tell you what. Do you want me to let it play or jump in to the bit that I'm particularly interested in? I'm happy to let it play if you want.
No, just pick on the part that you want. Pick on the part that you want.
Okay, that should be coming through shortly.
Yeah, I just see it on now.
Okay, so, oh, yes, there it is. So you got those two batteries. Can I just ask, are they AA or AAA batteries?
One's the back one's a AA, the front one's a AAA.
Okay.
I used the bigger one in the background so you can see it easier.
Okay, because I measured a AAA, because that's all I had to hand, and I made it a centimetre thick and 4 centimetres roughly long. If that ball that you've got it on was a metre diameter, and it actually looks smaller than one I used, but if you assumed that was even larger, scaled up, that battery is 400 kilometres wide, 1,600 kilometres tall. Space is only 100 kilometres. That's the sort of scale. Do you see what I'm saying? So to hide...
Yeah, and you're wrong. You're wrong.
Well, I'm not.
Right, the scale is on the z-axis. It's got nothing to do with the width. It's got nothing to do with the height. It is totally a function of the relative distances between the horizon, the way you say it is on your model, compared to where it actually is in the real world. And you can do it as a ratio. Now, if you don't get the distances on the z-axis correct, and focus on the vertical or the horizontal aspects instead, then I'm saying that you're swerving the point.
No, I'm not trying to swerve the point. I'm just trying to point out the size of scale. When you're talking z-axis, you're talking front to back?
From the observer, from the eyeball of the observer.
So towards and beyond that tower being...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But I was just...
As if you're the camera lens.
Yeah, so if that battery is 10 mil across, it's 10 mil front to back. Never mind the height, 10 mil front to back. That's 400 kilometres. So
it's a red herring. It's a red herring.
Okay, let me explain why, and then I'll show you why. If that horizon, as it is in your picture right now, that horizon is in front of both of those batteries, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, let's say it's only just in front of the nearest battery. To move that horizon behind that nearest battery, you would have to push that horizon back by 400 kilometres, scale-wise.
No.
Why?
Right, this is where because you're supposed to be applying it as a ratio, so it scales automatically. If you apply it as a ratio, the scale becomes irrelevant because it's fixed by the ratio. Do you not understand how ratios work as a function of scale?
Well, I think we should see how you do this then. Are you okay? Can I play a bit of your video?
Yeah, I'm going to go and get a cold drink. 2 minutes.
Well, I'll wait till you come back.
I'll only be 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll wait till you come back. Well, this is interesting, people. Obviously, there is some disagreement here. I think I'll take this opportunity just to read out super chats I've had. Thanks for these guys. 3 a.m. Paranormal e Horror super chatted €2. A 15-degree-per-hour drift. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. And Wojciech super chatted 5 Swiss francs. Light usually bends downwards, so on a flat Earth, the surface would look concave. Very interesting. Thanks for that. And Tim Pryor super chatted $5. If the Earth is flat, why do we see a horizon whatsoever? Absolutely, that was my point too.
Right, okay, I'm back.
You're back. Okay, I was just taking out the opportunity to read super chats. I just want to play a bit of the video. Excuse me, where you're.
Okay, Mr. Sensible, this is what I asked you to do.
Hold on, where you're going to talk about this scale and the 9 and 10 units and that. Is that okay? And then I'll point out why I have a problem with it.
You've not done it right,
Okay.
You've done it incorrect, and I want to show you for what you need to do to try and make the point that you're trying to make, which is not the points that we're making. But let's just demonstrate the point that you're trying to make and show how it should be done properly. Here we have a cushion that's relatively round in shape, and I'm going to use these little ribs as the scale marker. Just so happens it's nice and easy to work on. We have these 2 batteries here that represent the platforms, and you'll notice if I bring the camera in, you've got, let's go with this rib that is behind, that would be the 9th mile, 8th, the 7th mile, kind of represents the 7th with regards to where the 7 mile first platform is to the 9 point something mile second platform is. And then what we need to do is put the horizon 1 unit away, like 9 units behind these. So we'll go 9 from this one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's where we need to make the horizon like that. But the problem is I can't actually get the thing because the ball's that small. I can't actually get it like that. That's to doing it relatively to scale, right? They're the units that are required to do the test that you're supposed to be doing, right? So I'm going to have to give it massively in your favour and give you a 1 in 5 rather than a 1 in 10 ratio.
Yeah. Okay, go on. What's your problem? It's an oblate spheroid, actually. No, it's more like a beach ball. It's pretty big. It's like a buffet. What's it called? Like a beanbag, but it's round. Dude, the chat saying that you're muted. They can't hear you.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. I muted myself for the video. Right, I'll just reiterate that if I can, Tony. I asked Tony how big the ball was, and actually they probably could hear you. I think you said nearly a beach ball size, something like that. What I was saying was looking at the size of that sort of string ropey stitching. When Tony, when you counted forward the 9 or 10 forward of the batteries, you had to rotate that ball backwards quite a bit. If the way it looked, at least on the video, was perhaps you tilted the ball about a quarter of its circumference. Would that be right?
No, you're right. I'm on macro setting on my camera. I'm using the P900, and I've got it on macro setting. You know that thing that I always criticise Ranty for, focus lock.
Right.
Ranty's got the worst horizons ever because his camera is never set to infinity. It's always set to auto. So his camera's constantly hunting forward and backwards, looking for what it's thinking it's looking for. I've got it set to macro settings, so I'm looking at like, I don't know, the bug that's inside the flower. Do you know what I mean? It's set to the fixed distance, and what that does is it fixes it to the thing that's right in front of the camera. So although it's not zoomed in, it's on macro setting and the focus is locked to the foreground. I mean, I don't know if I can. It's a bit. How big's that? It's It's as big as a beach ball. It's an oblate spheroid as big as a beach ball. It's quite big. And it moved a few degrees only.
Okay, well, can I ask you a favour, Tony? Because obviously I saw this video today, and I was going to do a response video to it, but now we've been chatting. I would rather hold fire, to be fair to you, because at least on the video it looks like that stitching, is almost like thin rope, and the fact it looked like you turned the ball, as I say, through at least a quarter of a rotation. That's how it looked.
No.
I appreciate what you say. That's how it looked. So I'd be debunking something you're saying you're not doing, which isn't fair to you and isn't fair to me. So could I ask if you could, in effect, redo that video, and then perhaps I'll feel better about what you're trying to say. Perhaps I won't be able to do those sort of debunks. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's fair on both of us.
Sure, but I need to know, why don't you accept the point that I'm making with the ratio? The ratio is 1 to 10. Why don't you accept that?
Because scale is... The reason I'm saying scale is important is, if on my second video with the tack, let me just see if I can find it, just to show you the picture. Where is it? I had a second one, didn't I? Let me just jump onto it. Get to where the tack is. Right, that's when that comes through to you. It's just on a paused image. What I've got is the horizon. I think it's just coming through. The horizon is just in front of that little flint tower. The horizon is hiding just the very bottom of the tower. You're not going to hide all of it because of the scale. That tower is, 160, equivalent of 160 kilometres tall. To hide it, I'd have to turn it so far around the globe that... Yeah, okay. So it's hiding the bottom, and then when I get the lens in, I'm going to jump forward. I've got the lens in now. That'll feed through to you in a minute. And you can see that there is horizon now beyond. So what I'm saying is, at that scale, I have moved it more than the width of the flint. And I'm not sure of the width of the flint, but that'll be tens of kilometres. I've moved it a massive distance.
You haven't, though. You haven't. You need to show that you're moving it a distance that is similar to the oil platforms. Now, your claim that it's massive isn't supported by the scale that you're using, because you're claiming the word massive, but you're not demonstrating it within a scale that is acceptable. You're supposed to be doing it as a function of a ratio, because that fixes the distances to be relative and proportionate to each other. But if you're going to start talking about millimetres of the width and all that, that's just obfuscating the point that is so clearly, obviously on my side, that you can't replicate, and then you're going to try and weasel way around it. And if I call you out on that, then you'll just say that I'm losing my temper. But I am beginning to lose my temper, because relative numbers are important for this. You need to demonstrate that you can get the horizon to appear 10 times further back than what it's supposed to on your model. And that's not what you're doing.
Right. Those dimples... Official take, don't lose your temper. I thought we were having a good discussion, okay? Even if we're disagreeing, I thought we were having a good discussion. There's no need to lose temper. Those dimples are equivalent of 100 kilometres across. I have moved it so that, looking at that just beyond that flint tower now, between the tower and the sticky bit of sticky, you can see there is horizon that's part way up that tower. In fact, I think I do a close... Yeah, it's just coming through now, a close-up of it. So here is a before and after coming. So that shows the horizon has moved. At scale, that is vast.
Right. Why can't you do what I asked you to do? Why can't you use the dimples as you think?
Because to move it 10 dimples proportionally round that sphere, I'm not... if one of those dimples, I calculated, is 100 kilometres. Those 10 is 1,000 kilometres. And what is it? 40,000 kilometres around the Earth. What I'm saying is, I would have to be moving it a massive proportion around the Earth. Way, way more. It'd be like trying to loom the horizon, I don't know, 1,000 miles. It ain't going to happen. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not to scale. Now, if we had another Earth, scale 1-to-1, we'd be able to do something, or a lot larger, so it's easier to see.
So answer my question directly just answer the question I asked. Don't answer a question that you think I'm asking. Answer the question I'm asking. Why can't you do it as a scale of 1 to 10 the way I asked you to do it?
I think I have.
You haven't. You've got dimples that are on the screen,
Yes.
and all you've got to do is get a black pen and black marker. You don't have to do every immediate dimple. You can do it every 2, 3, 4 dimples. Put a marker on it so that you can see the dimples. Put your little divot, or what is it? Is it a Woodruff key or whatever that dowel is? Put that.
That is a cigarette lighter flint. That shows you how small it is.
So put your cigarette lighter flint at the 7th, and then put another something at the 10th one, and then put your camera at the first one. And that's where your horizon's got to be. Then bring it back into it, and you won't be able to do it.
No, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right, that's the point. Now, do you understand that that's not even our argument? That's your rebuttal.
No, but
Our...
Okay, let me turn it around, Tony. Those platforms, let's scale it up. If the what you're asking me to do, an equivalent of, is saying that if the horizon is 90 miles in front of that platform, I want you to apply refraction so you can see the horizon 10 miles beyond it. That's what you're asking me to do. Do you not see that about scale?
No, that's not what I'm asking you to do.
Okay,
So you got we have.
So you want? Can I just clarify, right? So you've got a platform. You're saying you want the horizon 1 unit in front and to loom it 9 behind, or 9 in front, loom it 1 behind. Which way around was it?
What camera are you using? Is it a P900?
Oh God, no, it's just my phone camera.
Right, does it? Oh, right. Your phone camera might have a macro mode on it. Does it have
Yes.
macro mode on it?
Yes, it does.
Right. So where are you using macro mode? Where are you using macro mode?
No.
Okay, do me a favour. Put it into macro mode, and then put out on the dimples, just mark out 10 dimples of equal distances between them. It doesn't matter the distances. What matters is that you get 10 of them that are the same distance between them all, so that you've got effectively a ruler over the top of the ball. Set your horizon up so that the horizon becomes your first dimple, because that represents the 1 mile, the geometric horizon. And then then put your 2 things, your flint, like your lighter flint at the 7th, and then at the 10th. And then using your lens, try and get that 10th, the horizon to loom to behind the 10th one. That's what you're supposed to be demonstrating, because that would be a scale reproduction, and it doesn't matter of the size. If the ball's too small, get a bigger ball. But it doesn't matter of the size of the ball. What matters is, can you get the horizon to appear 10 times further back as a function of looming? And the answer we both agree is no.
The answer I would agree at this scale is not going to be 10 dimples. Let me try and re-explain. Look at those dimples on there. Each one of those is the equivalent of 100 miles. So if you look where that flint is and where the horizon is, how many dimples do you think are between that? Looking at that picture now, the flint on the right.
How many dimples are between what? The horizon and the dimple and the flint?
No. So the right hand flint, the one that's just under me on the camera, got that flint. It's literally just in front of the horizon. How far back is that horizon? Can you see?
How in terms of the dimples?
In dimples, yeah. How far beyond that flint is that in dimples?
Oh, how far beyond it is in dimples?
Yes.
I'd say it's probably 5. Depends on whether you're putting the dimples that touch in each other or whether you're jumping dimples.
Well, I don't see, how are you getting 5 dimples from that?
Well, I'm just guessing it based on how it looks.
Right. Well, I don't know if I can. Let me try and zoom. I'm trying to zoom this in. If it will.
You're asking how many dimples behind the horizon the flint is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like it depends on where you draw your dimples, but I would say 5.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get this so that I'm trying to move the web page. There we go. Let's see if I can zoom it even more, because I'm going to have to resize screens to do this. I think that's about all I'm going to be able to do. It's going to come through to the stream shortly. It's not looking at it right now, but because that's looking at the zoomed, if you like, the pre-refracted. It's going to come across in just a minute, Tony. What I'm saying is, I can't count any dimples. All I can see is that the horizon, and it's hopefully it'll come through soon. Yeah, it's just moving. The horizon is beyond it. That's all I can tell. There's no way you're going to be able to mark, let's say, 10 dimples and count how many beyond that. I think that's... No, it still hasn't come through to you guys. Oh, there's quite a delay on this feed. Nope. Has it come through to you? It's hard to tell, isn't it? I'm still showing on my YouTube stream.
We're into the horizon, and to me it looks like it's behind the horizon.
Is this the picture where you've got a dividing line down the middle?
Yes.
Yeah. So I thank you for saying that. It looks like it's behind the horizon because that's the original. Quite why the feed hasn't come through yet, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm seeing the left hand of the two pictures, not the right hand one.
Yeah.
Are you referring to the right?
Well, I'm referring to the right hand one, and I don't know why. Oh, bloody hell! I know what it is. I didn't transfer it. I've transferred it now. Yes. So actually, thank you for that because you're confirming that flint is at that point behind the horizon. Only just because anymore, and I couldn't loom it. We're talking only being able to loom a tiny bit. Hopefully, that's coming through to you any second now. As soon as you see the right-hand picture, the one with the arc of the lens going across it, there it is. It's just come through to me now. If you look between the flint and the little sticky-up bit of sticky plastic, can you see there's just that tiny little bit of horizon?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So that's as far back as I can loom it. But at scale, that might be 100 miles. Do you see what I'm saying? So,
I do, but you're not using the right scale. You should be using a ratio to demonstrate it, because what you're actually doing is obfuscating the point, and the point is essentially very simple. You've got a horizon at 1 mile, you've got two obstructions at 7 and at 9.7 miles or whatever they are, and you need to show that you can geometrically shift the horizon via looming and a lens back to the 10-mile marker, and you can't do it, and you've already conceded that. That's the first point. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that you could. Let's say you could do it.
I want to come back in a second to that concede, because I don't concede. But okay, carry on.
Well, you can't demonstrate it. You've admitted you couldn't demonstrate that.
I'm saying at the scale I was operating at, with each dimple there being 100 kilometres, and I'm just showing both images side by side now. That'll come through. At that scale, I'm saying I have demonstrated it, because even that flint is going to be a thick end of 100 kilometres front to back.
Yeah, but respectfully, your scale is inadequate. It's not doing the job that you should be demonstrating. We know that the relative scale, you should be applying a relative scale. Relative to the scale, not relative to dimples, because it's arbitrary. You can assign them to be any value you want. I could say that the 300 kilometres away each dimple. How would any of us really know?
Well, I'll tell you how we know. That we know because I showed the ball. I have it over there if you want to see it. It's about yay big. It's a small netball type thing, and even then I overestimated the size as 1 metre circumference. The Earth I underestimated as 40 million metre circumference, and then I calculated from the size of the tack, 1 mil
super chat
base height, 5 mil base width, 20 mil height, giving you a base height of 40 kilometres, a base width of the tack 200, and the tower height is 800. And with the flint, that worked out to be what was it now? 160 kilometres tall. So that flint there, if you scaled this up to Earth, that flint is 160 kilometres tall. And
But I'm not asking you to do that. That's incorrect. I'm asking you to do it relative to the numbers that we've got: 1, 7, 9, and 10. You should be doing a scale relative to that.
Yeah, well, as someone said, the horizon on that left there was 1 plank length in front of that flint. The horizon on the left was 10 plank lengths behind it. I mean, that's meaningless. All you can do is operate on the scale you've got.
That's why. Yeah, but you operate on the scale that's relative to what the facts that the numbers that you've got. We've got numbers that are all below 10. You should be working on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, I don't know why you're not doing that.
just look at those two images, right? How can you measure? I can't measure how far in front of that flint that horizon is. I can't measure how far behind that flint that horizon is. All I can show is I have moved the horizon from in front of it to behind it.
Okay, let me show you what I mean. I'm obviously not making my point sufficiently for you to get the point that I'm making. So I'll do it really quickly on Paint.
Okay. So guys, let's see. I've got a super chat. I'll read that in just a second. Please, no comments on Paint skills. Mine are pretty piss poor, and Tony's doing this on the fly. So John Rapp super chatted $2 Australian. To scale, would be looking at less than one dimple. Absolutely.
No, not to the scale of the dimple. We're doing it to relative numbers, and all the numbers are below 10. So all we need to do is find within the parameters of the ball you've got a relative scale that works to the numbers between 1 and 10. It's really simple. I don't know why this is so convoluted or difficult for you to understand. It should be really straightforward to somebody of the skill and magnitude of wonderful ball earthers that excel at maths and deny that we're any good at maths.
Well, I won't say the obvious about Mr. Oakley and his metres and kilometres dividing by 1,000, but I'll just finish off about that super chat. He said about looking at scale at less than one dimple. What I am saying is if those dimples are equivalent of 100 kilometres on Earth, we are talking on that Black Swan photo of moving the horizon less than one dimple. To be beyond it. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So you got your image, have you?
Don't relate the dimples to anything to do with the Earth. Do them relative to themselves, because then it's very easy for us to demonstrate to scale using ratios, and then that will then prove that you can't do the point. So I'm going to suggest that perhaps you're doing this because you know you can't do it, and that's the reason why you don't want to do it the way I'm saying.
I'm saying that you have to look at scale because.
Relative scale, not scale to the Earth, relative to the ball that you're working on.
Well, you can't just say 10 dimples or 10 centimetres. It's too big because, for instance, let's say we're talking centimetres. If you said 1 centimetre in front, 9 centimetres behind, or whichever it is, a length of 10 centimetres, on the curve of that ball, that's a massive angle round the ball.
Right, listen. Go to the messages in Discord.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, where are you?
Retrieve mine and stick it on screen for the audience.
I certainly will. Just give us a second. Which room is it in? General?
No, it should be in your personal messages.
DM.
From me to
okay,
you.
Thanks, mate. Right, are you talking about... the photo. Okay, let me open that. Make sure I get it into the window I'm going to grab. Just bear with me a second. Okay.
Now, if we're not able to agree on this is the correct way to do this, then that really brings the conversation to an end, because I don't agree with you. This is the way to do it.
Give us a second. It should be coming through shortly, and then I'll let you give a full explanation, okay?
Right. So the point that I'm saying is that if you were to get a black marker and you were to put... It doesn't matter how you do this, you do it relative to your ball, but you mark out 10 points that are within the frame of reference that you're going to be using. And I would say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That might be a suitable scale. You can see there's a gap of 2 dimples in between each dot. I'm not saying it absolutely is, but what I'm saying is as long as you can get a scale that fits that ball and you can show a 1 in 10 ratio to that ball, then that ratio doesn't matter whether it's like a vector. If you're familiar with CAD, vectors are infinitely variable. Like, you can make them as big or as small as you want and they don't lose any quality. But the point is that if you're getting the gaps right relative to the ball that you're working on, you're working at the same ratio as to what we're seeing real world. We've got 1, the horizon, the actual geometric horizon that we actually have, apparently, according to your model. So then you have a gap of 7.
So that's the dot nearest to us, potentially.
Sure, okay. But what I'm saying is the relative gaps in between the dots, if you just mark out so that they get basically to whatever fits with your ball, you can then work on a scale of 1 to 10. And then you can put the horizon at the first one, so you can make the horizon the first dot, and then you can have the lighter flint at the 7th one, and then a battery behind it so we can see it for the 10th one. then use your magnifying glass and make the horizon appear behind the 10th one. And we know that you're not going to be able to do it. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So if you can't agree that that's the way to do it, then that's really the end of the conversation.
Right, 1 second. Let me just pick up that ball. Just give us a sec.
Sure.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself back on full view again. I'll come back to your image in a second, all right? I'll just put myself back on full view. Okay, I'll wait till that feeds through, and let me just do a bit of counting. So on your image, so it's 1, 2, 3, dot. One. So the dot's every third, isn't it, on there?
Well, I'm not saying that that's the right scale for your ball.
Okay, well, let me see if I can get myself properly on camera. What I'm saying is, even just roughly, you're talking, I don't know if you can see the picture, where those two fingers are, you're talking about that much curve of the Earth. Look how far round the entire sphere of the Earth is. That Earth is 40,000 metres, 26,000 miles around, and you're looking at that portion of it. That's roughly those number of dots you're showing, sort of thing. But you see
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we're talking about the distance. So the size of the ball is irrelevant when you're working with the ratio, the relative ratio that we're working with. It can be a massive ball, it can be a small ball. It doesn't matter because the ratio around that curve is going to be proportionate to the scale of relative that we're using.
Well,
do it. Just do it and then fail and then see why you fail. And the answer will be because you can't do it.
I know that I can't do it because you're trying to, because you cannot refract the light. Oh, I need to, sorry, I'll just put your picture up. I need to come back to me again 1 second. I know that I cannot do it. I would not attempt to do that. Not because I'm trying to avoid anything, but from there to there is too big a curve. You're not going to refract the light that much, and you wouldn't.
That's
on the
the point.
World.
So that's a concession. I'll take that as a concession because it is a concession.
No, because if that's your beach there, and there's your rig, well, the beach and the rig and the horizon you can see is less than one, what do you call it, dimple away. You're only looking at a
do it on a bigger ball then if you think it'll help. It won't make any difference. You could do it on a golf ball with dimples. It doesn't matter.
No, golf ball would make it even worse. No, it's
not.
No. Okay. On that Black Swan image, the furthest platform was what, 9.5 miles? And I think when you first talked about it, you said, "Oh, let's call it a mile beyond." So let's round it, call it 10 miles altogether, okay, to that visible horizon. Yeah. Proportionally, if that's the top of the world, if that's where you're stood, how far around the world is that 10 miles? It's from there to there. You wouldn't even see it move. But you're asking me to go from there to there. Do you see what I'm saying? You're asking me to do something 500 times more than in real life.
Right, and I'm not asking you to do it. You can't scale the Earth down to somewhat accurate this size in relative scales to the Earth, but you can do it with relative to 10 miles, the observation that we see.
Sorry, just repeat that again, pal.
You're not going to be able to accurately scale down the claimed size of Earth to the size of a beach ball. You're not going to accurately be able to do it.
Not to that accurate, but for instance, like with my original tin tack, I mean, I did some rough calculations, was generous on both ways, and made it 800 kilometres tall. Now, it might have been 100 taller, 100 less, but it's something of that order. It's not 80 feet or whatever one of those platforms is. We're talking about several 100 kilometres. Do you see? I mean, that's why my original thing was just to show you can loom beyond what's visible. So, can I ask then, this whole business with the whole business with the ball and these your dots like you've drawn on the screen, something like that. Could you do a demonstration, set it up, and show us what results you get? I know you're saying it won't work. Hey, I say that won't work, but it'd be interesting to see your explanation and what you come up with regarding that. Would you do that?
How do you want me to do it?
Well, I would suggest perhaps with a ball that's probably a bit smoother than that one you used today or yesterday with that cushiony thing, because each of those lumps would be greater than the atmospheric height, I would suggest. Because I mean, if that tin tack, I've got it here actually, if that would have got here, let me go onto the full size screen again.
Flat Earth fallacy says someone needs to scale it properly and show Sleeping Warrior that it can be done. It's a fraction of a millimetre. It's for that reason why it can't be done. Flat Earth fallacy, because when you scale it down to the size of a football or a beach ball or netball or whatever ball, the tolerances are that minute. It becomes really important. A dimple becomes the size of Mount Everest kind of thing.
Yes. Which is why on that image that was shown that you've overwritten your dots on, the difference between those two views of the flint is minuscule. All I was
that's why that's wrong though.
What I would say is it shows that I moved it from in front to behind. You're right. The scale is so out of whack that you'd be measuring. You'd need a microscope to measure it and say, oh, well, he's come the equivalent of from 1 mile in front to 10 miles behind or whatever. You'd need a microscope. I'm not going to be able to do that with any equipment I've got. All I can show is it's moved from in front to behind. I originally showed I could loom up an area that was out of sight. And then when you and Oakley said about from in front to behind, I thought, hey, that makes no odds. And I showed it from in front to behind. I can't claim that it's 1 mile in front, 10 miles in front, 50 miles behind. I can't, because it's too small to see. And what I'm saying is, if you
that's why I'm asking you. That's why I'm asking you to do it on a scale of 1 to 10 rather than a scale of 1 to 24,900. That scale is disproportionate and it isn't accurate.
I'll tell you what then, if you can draw me a scale, a little ruler, that's the width of a human hair and put 10 markings in it that we can see, I'll do it. But you can't. No, I'm not having a go at you. You can't. It's too small. It's too small.
No, but it's not that you're not having a go at me. It's that you're failing to accept the point that I'm making, which is correct and valid. You need a scale of 1 to 10 because we have numbers between 1 and 10. So that should be your relative scale. For some reason, you don't want to do it. And I would say it's because you know you can't loom that horizon back up the way you need to. Now, you've already conceded that, but let's not forget that this is not even our point. This is your point that's countering our point that you haven't even addressed. Our point is, the minute you move away from that geometric horizon being apparent, welcome to flat Earth, sir.
I don't see it that follows at all. Why should it be flat? I'll tell you what, if we were unable to sort of demonstrate this looming, that still wouldn't prove flat Earth.
No, but you can't demonstrate looming in the air. I'm allowing you to beg the question that you can loom using a medium that is a physical boundary change that is 100 times more dense than air to create the effect that you believe the air is doing in real world. But it doesn't do that real world. I'm allowing you to beg the question with a false dichotomy. No, with an equivalence fallacy. That isn't what happens in the real world. You think it happens because you think it's an equivalent argument, but it's wrong. That's not what air does. The refraction of air does. It doesn't do that. I'm only allowing you to do this so I can demonstrate that you fail.
You have already agreed that there is refraction. You've agreed that there is looming and other forms of refraction stroke mirages.
Yeah,
that
none
lens,
of which.
Yeah, well, that lens. That lens works by refraction. Plus, in the real world, with those rigs, you haven't got a few inches or a foot or two of air. You've got 10 miles of air. That makes a difference.
Right. That's the point. That's our point. That 10 miles of air does make a difference. Right, I've agreed to refraction. I did not agree that your claim of refraction is the refraction that we see in the atmosphere. I allowed you to beg the question. That is not my position. My position is refraction is defined. There are 5 types of it. Towering, stooping, mirage, a few others, none of which cover the scenario that we see. You're claiming I've agreed to refraction and claiming that is somehow some kind of concession. No, it's not. What you're claiming for refraction is not what you can demonstrate real world. You're only doing it with an actual lens, a physical lens, a change in medium that isn't there real world. When you look real world, refraction's defined. Now we're only doing this to allow you to demonstrate the point because I know you're going to fail, and you've already admitted you're going to fail. But the point is, the refraction point I agreed to is not the refraction that's real world, because it is defined. But again, this is within your counter argument. Our argument is the minute the horizon moves from being geometric to apparent, then boats can't go over it because it's flattening itself out. So boats are meant to go over the geometric curve. But if you're saying, well, it gets loomed up, okay, well, if we accept that looming is the answer, then we want to play the let's define looming and see does it cover the scenario game, and we both know it doesn't. But if I say, well, looming doesn't explain the geometric horizon, because you need to be able to point out the geometric horizon, and you say it's calculated only by your model, and I say, well, you guys don't let us have the ether because there's no evidence it exists. Why should I let you have the geometric horizon when there's no evidence that exists? It's only calculated in your model. But in real world, we see an apparent horizon every day, and we see further because of the visibility, and there's a load of factors that influence what we can and can't see. So don't falsely equivocate my concessions as concessions in the bigger picture. They're only within your argument to allow you to have your argument.
Right, you said I've conceded that I can't do it.
That you need to an apparent horizon. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Right, you said that I've conceded that I can't do it. I have not conceded that I can't loom stuff up beyond that geometric horizon that I've got on
How
this
big
ball.
that ball is that I used?
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch that. What I'm saying is I did not concede that I cannot loom.
That's massive compared to...
Hello? Right, I'm saying I have not conceded that I cannot loom something beyond the curve. I demonstrated that I can loom something, refract something beyond the curve. What I have, hold on, Tony. I let you have your head. You gave a good statement. I'm just trying to.
You haven't done enough. You haven't done enough,
Tony. I let you have a good statement. Let me respond, please. So I have. I'm saying that I've not conceded that I cannot loom something or lift something beyond the curve. I did that. I lifted the purple area. I lifted the horizon with the flint. What I have said is I cannot, on a scale that we can work at, lift something using your 110 thing, because proportionally that is too far around this curve. Because in reality,
the point. That's the point.
Yep. So you're saying I can't do it on this model.
Well, do it on a bigger ball then. Do it on any size ball you want. You can't get a horizon that's 10 times further to appear 10 times further as a function of distance, not as height or width. You can't make that horizon move backwards. That's the point. You've just conceded it.
No, I haven't conceded it. And I did make that horizon move backwards. The only thing that I am happy to concede is, look at where we had those two images of mine, the before and after with the flint. What I happily concede is I can't measure how far from in front to the back it moved, but it moved. That's
not
what
nearly enough.
But
right,
so no. Hold on. Hold on. You say not nearly enough. As far as I'm concerned, it may well, and it probably is, more than enough. But I can't measure it because it's too small to measure.
Yeah, you can measure it. You can. No, it's not too small to measure. Right.
Not with 10 dots. Because that's whatever I said, 1,000 kilometres equivalent.
Yeah, but you're trying to make it a scale relative to Earth. You should be making it a scale relative to the two factors that we have, 1 mile and 10 miles. When you do it to that scale, you can't make that horizon go from 1 mile to 10. You can't do it. That's the point.
Well, that would be, using that ball, I'm happy to do it from 1 mile to 10 miles, but on that ball, that would be sort of 1 micron to 10 microns.
No,
you have to take scale into account. How can you do it otherwise?
Because the size of the ball is irrelevant if you're working on a scale of 1 to 10, because we've got the 10 miles. You can do it on any size ball you want. The gradient is always going to stop you from bringing it back. But you know that anyway, but you need to make it towards the Earth because you want to make it sound like I'm being unreasonable. But the point is, I can demonstrate a 1 in 10 scale can't do what you say it can do, unless I do it on the actual size of the Earth, which is never going to happen. So even if I did do it on and it didn't work, you still wouldn't accept it.
Right, well Tony, I will carry on with you in a sec. I just want to read out, because I've got a little bunch of super chats. Some are actually directed to you. John Rapp super chatted 2 Australian. To scale would be looking at less than 1 dimple. He also super chatted $2 Australian. Tony, 10 dimples on that curve is 1,000 kilometres. Scale? Question mark. Hugh Jas super chatted 5 Australian, saying ratios need to be expressed in measurement, which requires scale.
No, they don't. That's not even true. That's not even true. Ratios are purely numerical. They are relative to themselves and do not require centimetres, inches, or miles. You're wrong.
Okay. Mr. Victory, thank you, Mr. Victory. Super chatted $19.99. Says, if you have to say that everyone else is wrong, or that the man is lying and holding you back, or that the man is lying and holding you back, but you are so certain the world is flat, the globe doesn't have to defend itself, doesn't matter what you claim, needs evidence. And
that was the most incoherent babble I've ever heard.
That was probably my reading as much as anything. But if you have to say everyone else is wrong, or that your opponent is lying, but you are certain the world is flat, basically you have to provide some evidence, I think is what he's saying. Some positive evidence.
We have provided positive evidence, and it's being intentionally misrepresented by Mr. Sensible because he needs the scale to be in his favour, which is ambiguous, and he refuses to apply relative scale. Well, if he applies relative scale, he fails. It supports my point that you can't do it, and he hasn't got a counter explanation other than he needs to obfuscate this point. But remember, this is the point within your argument that isn't even our argument, but your own argument fails because you refuse to apply relative scale. Well, why don't you address the original point, which is our actual point? The horizon's not geometric. Well, if the horizon's not geometric, it means boats aren't going over it. So why is that not a case of welcome to flat Earth? Answer that one.
Well, I would like you, as I asked a little earlier, I would like you to redo my experiment and put the dots on where you think are reasonable and show us it failing, because you said it will fail. I say it will fail as well, but I want you to do it and show us, because I would be interested what scale you use on your ball. But if you do, could you do us a favour? Could you make sure at some point you just show us the ball just to give us an idea of the size? There's just two more super chats right now to read out. John Rapp super chat is $5 Australian. Says, Tony, please stop using scale. You have it wrong. Please explain the clear image of the oil rigs with straight cranes and a sharp horizon.
I'm not even addressing that.
Okay.
If you go to DMs, you'll see the picture of that I've just sent you just now of that ball. You'll see that it's it's bigger than a beach ball. It's a big ball.
Okay, I'll pull that up in just a second. Thank you. Wojciech.
Right, so yeah, look, Chris.
Sorry, just two more super chats, Tony. Wojciech super chatted 5 Swiss. Why 1 and 10? Horizon moved from hundreds of miles in front to hundreds of miles behind. It is more than enough, Riley. And the last one.
No, it's not.
And the last one's Mr. John Rapp, super chat 2 Australian again, saying Tony, scale is exactly a ratio FFS. Right.
Yeah, he's right. A ratio, a relative scale, that, like Chris Katsolis says, relative scale is a bloody ratio. That's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to do it as a ratio, not as a units and measurements, the way you're trying to do it with 1 dimple equals X. Use the scale that we've got. We've got 1 mile, we've got 7 miles, we've got 10 miles and plus. That's the scale that we can apply to real world, and you can put that on any size ball you want. It'll fail on every single one of them because you've got to make that horizon appear 10 times further back than it actually is. I'll give you that you can go from 1.2 miles to 1.3 because you demonstrate it with your magnifying glass, but you can't demonstrate it to 10. You're not going far enough, and you're refusing to apply a relative scale, otherwise known as a ratio. The guy in chat is correct. Chris Katsolis is correct. You're not doing what Chris Katsolis is saying.
Sorry, I didn't see what. Sorry, I'm just. I just pushed your picture across, and actually, that ball. You're right. It's a funny shape. It is bigger than I thought. I imagined it to be about the size of a football. So thanks for giving us that photo, Tony.
And it is an oblate spheroid as well. It's flattened.
Very. Yeah. Okay. So actually, that gives us some idea of scale. So what I would ask is, and I know that you say it's going to fail, and that's fine. But I would like, even without commentary, just to do it so we can see, with...
I've already done it. At the start of that video. It failed because I couldn't get 10 units, relative units. Now it's because that ball's too small. But if I made the ball huge, it would still fail.
But looking at the stitches, you know what I mean, the lines on that beachy ball thing, how many did you go? Was it 10?
10, yeah.
Okay, now look at that picture and count 10. Look how far around the curve that is. If I go from the one by your eye, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's the thick end of a quarter of a world away. Do you see?
But it's but it's relative to the 1 in 10, which is what you should be scaling it to, not to the Earth, because you can't do it to Earth because the margins are so small and finite, infinite, that you can't do it. But what you can do is a 1 in 10 ratio. And the fact that you refuse to do that or refuse to realise that it's the right answer tells me either you know that it'll fail, or you know that, or you don't understand that you should be using those relative numbers.
Well, looking at that, let me express this another way, right? If the stitching by your eye, or the surface by your eye, is vertical, in relation to your room, counting round 10, you're then pointing at an angle of, 30 degrees off or whatever off vertical. That's the sort of a level of refraction you're asking for. Do you follow that?
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay.
That's the point.
So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's 30 degrees. Over that 10 miles in the Black Swan picture, how much is it? It's only going to be a fraction of a degree, and you're asking for 30. Do you see, scale-wise?
No. Again. Now you're moving the scale to a scale of degrees. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to do it to a scale of 1 in 10.
But
that's what we see in the image.
But you're asking me to bend light that many degrees. That's what.
Correct.
I'm saying. Yes,
correct. And it doesn't matter how big or small the ball's made. You're never going to do it, because every time you go 1 mile further back, it becomes more and more remote that you can do it. That's why relative numbers is correct.
Yeah, but the size of the ball does matter. If we got Earth as size 1:1 scale, if we went on Jupiter, forget it being a gas giant, just assume it's solid, then that's so much bigger that
it can't be a gas giant. You can't have a gas giant existing in a vacuum of space.
That's it. Perhaps another day, mate. I'm happy to do it. If you'd be happy to come on, I'd happy to do that another day. But just take that as a sphere, that size, okay?
No. We're not taking a false equivalence as your example. No. Because what happens is you start assuming that that's correct. You start reifying this concept that you've got in your head that it's true. So yeah, let me.
I'm not going to believe or disbelieve anything about space, atmospheres, gravity, and all that stuff. All I'm saying is take a sphere of that size. All right. Let's say we pumped up Earth, so it's now the size Jupiter is. Then, if your two rigs, the angle of a laser pointing from you at 1 foot to hit the rig, do you know what I mean? It would not have to, or a beam of light would not have to bend as much. If the Earth was then shrunk to only 100 miles diameter, you're going to have to curve it a lot more. Scale matters.
Yes, scale does matter, and the only scale that we can reasonably apply is the relative scale that we see based on the values that we know we have. We've got a scale of 1 to 10. So addressing Lizzie Beth in chat, she says, Sleeping Warrior, your scale is wrong. 1 to 10 miles is not the same as the Black Swan photo. It's identical. That is the scale that you need to be using, 1 to 10. If you don't do that, you're obfuscating the point, because you know you can't bring it back from behind that amount of curve. You've got to get that horizon from 1.2 miles back to 10. Now, we both know you can't do that, and you've already kind of conceded it twice. But if you can't do that, then it means that your model's debunked, mate.
No, I'd say it's a false equivalent, because in reality, we're trying to curve it round, with your rigs, curve it round a curve like that. In my model, we're trying to curve it just slightly more. You're asking me to curve it around like that. Do you see what I'm saying?
You can pick any size ball you want. It's not a false equivalence. It's the direct relative scale that we're working at. So you pick any size ball you want. Go and get the biggest ball that you can get your hands on, and then do a 1 in 10 ratio over that horizon to the oil platforms, and you will not be able to do it, because the bigger the ball becomes, the further it's got to bend back round. So it doesn't matter. That's why it kills you.
The less it would have to be bent. Unless I misheard what you said, the larger the sphere, if you cut that sphere in half and looked at the where you've cut it, that curve, the larger the sphere, the straighter that will look. Until if you had a sphere that's about 26,000 miles across, it would look virtually flat. If you got one the size of a tennis ball...
No, it wouldn't look flat, would it? Because we know if it did look flat, then the horizon would be like 10 miles away, like we see. If it was a sphere, the horizon would be 1.2 miles away, the way you're saying it.
Right, let me try and explain it this way. A right-angle triangle with the vertical... So the horizontal is on the surface. You've got a vertical 1 foot high coming down to a point 1.2 miles away, okay? So you can see that's a really, really shallow angle from a foot high to sea level over 1.2 miles. It's a really thin wedge, whereas on this ball, it's. I'll tell you what, Tony. I must admit, I'm exasperated.
I know, because you don't understand it. The bigger the ball gets, the more remote it becomes. In your head, you're thinking it becomes more plausible. But the reality is that the circumference is getting bigger, and you've still got to bring it back from behind that circumference. Well, you've got to get further around that circumference as it gets bigger.
But the angle is less. The bigger, yes, it's further away, but the angle is less, and you've got more air to refract. Sorry, go on. What I will say, just to give you a heads up, Tony, it's 20 to 11. I need to stop at by 11, okay? I just want to read out two more super chats that popped up. Johnny Ragadoo, super chat $5, saying, sorry, one sec, saying a 15-mile horizon on the Earth is, what, a quarter of an arc degree? Think how many arc degrees you loomed the horizon on your basketball, Mr. S. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not relative. It's not relative to the degrees. It's relative to the distances to the horizon.
And Mr. Victory super chatted $9.99. You're wrong to have the refraction like you see. You have to have that geometric horizon to give the apparent horizon you see. You don't.
No, that's not true.
Hold on. You don't automatically have an apparent horizon.
Yeah, you always have an apparent horizon. You never, ever, 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 ever need a geometric horizon. It only exists in the fantasy of your model. It doesn't. We don't need it. Never, ever see it.
Well, I thought we'd established that we would see it if the refractive index was exactly right, and it coincided.
No,
but
you
wouldn't know. But you wouldn't know.
No, so you wouldn't see it then.
Well, no, you'd see it, but you wouldn't know.
No, you would see a refract. Yeah, that's it. So you wouldn't see it.
You see a line where the air met the sea. You don't know if that's exactly 1.2 miles or 1.21 miles. Therefore, you don't know for definite without some extremely careful measurements if you are actually seeing the geometric horizon.
So then you don't see it.
Well, you'd see it, but you wouldn't know you're seeing it.
No, you're saying that the only time that you'd ever see the geometric horizon is if the refractive index was 2, right? Let's say the refractive index was 2. You're still seeing an apparent horizon. You're claiming it matches your model, but that don't make it a curve. It just happens to match your model on that occasion at that exact moment in time. It doesn't make it a curve.
Because you think it's not curved anyway, obviously. You think it's flat.
No, because you're calculating for where you think a geometric curve would be, and then at the right moment in the refractive index, when it happens to match your model, you're instantly converting that calculation into a real-world geometric curve. Well, if it was a real-world geometric curve over 1.2 miles, you would definitely be able to measure it, not calculate, measure it. And you know something? There's a dude on your side that's lining up to do exactly that. He's already tried it once and failed because it was... Slice Barkane, are you familiar with him?
I've seen some of his stuff. So he's planning to do what?
He's got he went out I think it was about 6 or 8 months ago, and he bought a mile's worth of tubing, and he's got a couple of verticals, but most of it's horizontal over the whole mile. And he's going to be showing that when he gets a couple of verticals over different points across the mile, he's going to be showing that the Earth curves at the rate expected.
Okay.
But he's already tried it once and failed because it bled at the joints because of the weight of the water, which, you know, fair enough. He didn't know that was going to happen. It's a lot of water. It is going to carry a lot of weight. So he said he was going to redo it, and he's now redoing it. Here's the thing. If he fails for a second time and he fails to get the required results for whatever reason, he's going to need a third time, then a fourth time, and so on until he gets the results that he wants. But conversely, if he keeps failing at it, we would say it's because it doesn't even exist. So the question becomes, if he fails it for a second time, does he need to go for a third time, or should he give it up?
The first time it was equipment failure, yeah?
It bled at the joints. He had, I think it was...
So whatever the shape, that didn't prove anything either way, did it? The equipment
No,
failed.
it was a fail.
Okay. So has he tried again since then, did you say?
I believe. I was only told about it yesterday or the day before, but I believe he's planning on doing it imminently. So if you're not familiar, you should support him, because this is going to prove, and if he can prove it convincingly, then we can repeat it. But if he can prove it, then I'll be happy to jump sides if you can show that in the middle it's 4 inches higher than it is at the edges.
Okay. I tell you what, Tony, respect for you for that. So if he can really evidence it, as you said, repeatable because hey, it needs science. Then you would look to accept that and perhaps at least leave flat Earth or at least question it more.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments over his exact setup because for some reason he's not doing it relative to the water of the canal. He's doing it next to the canal. We would say you need to do it above the water of the canal, or even in the water of the canal, because you need something to reference. Because we would say it's flat because it's level. You guys would say, well, level is curve.
Yeah.
So then we're just going to argue over, because he needs to be really clear on how he's going to be able to distinguish between level and horizontal and level and curve, following a curve of the Earth, because that's the bit I'm not sure how he's going to do it. But I'm absolutely behind this completely because...
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, because if you can show it, then that's cool.
Okay, so have you contacted him to query him about what he's doing and make suggestions, or even say, look, that's not correct because, and so he can discuss that with you and whatever, because you're saying about being on or in the water, and yeah, maybe he'll say, do you know what, that's a good idea, or maybe he'll say no because to try and iron out, to head off any rejections beforehand. Because for instance, he might say, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
He's not talking to me at the moment.
Okay.
I think he's blocked me from a previous exchange. But I believe somebody's all on my side's already trying to have a dialogue with him.
Okay.
He's not taking it seriously. But I think what he needs to do is, if he's really going to do this, he needs to engage with us on our side, because if he can stop the arguments forming before they start, that's going to benefit both sides.
It will, and that sounds really interesting, and I will look out for that. Tony, I tell you what, it has been a good conversation. I have really enjoyed it. We've both got passionate at times, and that's fair enough. I have no problem with that. I'll just read out a couple more super chats. Flat Earth Fallacy has just super chatted $30.99 Australian.
Have you got your gate? Have you got your gate set high? Because you seem to.
Sorry, I seem to what? I seem to what, Anthony?
You breaking up then? I'm just wondering who it is that's breaking up. Is it my signal coming in, or is it you going out?
I don't know. I have had a couple of issues. People said I've been breaking up, so apologise for that. I'll just say Flat Earth Fallacy, super chatted 30.99 Australian. Anthony, define the unit for us. What is 1 unit in the Black Swan? The distance to the horizon? The distance from the rig to the horizon?
The relative numbers, the units, there is no units when we're talking relative numbers, but we're talking the relative numbers are relative to themselves. We know we've got mile markers up to about 10, right? Really, I'd say it's nearer to 15, but we know we've got up to 10. So we should be talking in relative numbers up to the value of 10, because that way you can substitute them for 10. You can substitute them for 10 miles if you want to, or 10 dimples, or 10 centimetres, or 10 lighter flints. Doesn't matter what you use then, so long as you've got the numbers 1 to 10, and we do see those numbers. This is why I'm asking you to do it relative to the numbers that we can calculate and demonstrate with real-world application. But again, when you were saying about the bigger the ball, the easier it becomes, I would say it's not any easier just because you think it's flattening it out, because the distance is getting bigger as well when you've got that bigger relative scale. And we know that you've still got to bend it like Beckham.
Whereas my counter to that would be the smaller the ball, the more you got to bend it. And the last super
but also the bigger the ball, the more it can bend away from it as well. Remember, light varies at point to point to point along the path. The bigger you make the path, the more it varies along that path.
Yeah, but in the real world with your actual rigs, of course, that's many miles for it to bend. Whereas any model, it's only going to be a matter of feet. Mr. Victory super chatted $4.99. Why does the LIGO particle accelerator bend with the Earth? Do you know anything about that? So I'm not going to hold you to
the LIGO particle. The LIGO particle accelerator is dead straight. That's a claim that ball earthers make because they want to make people believe that it's following the curvature of the Earth. It isn't.
I'd have to say I don't really know. As far as I knew, I thought it was dead straight. So the ends of the arms, if you like, are actually further from the centre of the Earth by a little because of the curve. But I know not enough about it, so I'm not going to claim that as a firm claim.
if it followed the curvature of the Earth the way it was claimed, the particles would hit the ceiling before it got to the receiver on the other end. It'd have to bounce off the ceiling to come down, and they want it as a straight line of sight, so it can't conform to the curvature of the Earth. The only way they could do that would be to dig it deep enough. It would be a straight chord line through, and it wouldn't intersect the surface of the Earth. But to claim that it follows the curve of the Earth is incorrect. It doesn't. It's straight.
Okay, well, I'm not going to agree or disagree, Tony, because I don't know enough about it. Okay, so we're just about coming up to the end. Tony, honestly, I would really, really like to thank you for this. I've enjoyed it, and I hope that you have too.
Well, we've just disagreed on the relative numbers scale that we should be using.
But we have disagreed politely. Neither of us lost our rag.
Sure.
There's no nastiness or swearing or anything. And yeah, if you're happy to do this again sometime, I am. And
sure.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
But just before you go,
please.
Is gravity a force? Yes or no?
You can think of it as a force. What I would say, it's an emergent property.
So you buy into Eric Verlinder's work, do you?
I don't know him. What I have, Tony, is I don't know which video of mine it is, but this guy did this like a bendy graph, and it really, really explained it well. I'll see if I can dig that out and get that to you as a clip, because it really, really demonstrated it. Because you know that clip with oh gosh, what's his name? The northerner bloke, the northern physicist. I can't think of his name. He says the reason why the feather and the bowling ball fall at the same rate is they're not really falling. Do you know that clip?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Is he going to argue that the Earth's moving up to it?
Well, no, it's the warping of space-time, and there's a really, really interesting video that can explain it a million. It's only about 2 minutes long. It explains it a million times better than I ever could. And to be honest, it's one of those things you need to see. You might disagree with it, but I think it explains it really well. I will try and dig that out, and I'll get that to you, Tony, because it'd be interesting to see what you think. Okay, well, what I always do, Tony, is when I've had various people in the room, normally there's several people, I give each of them a chance to sort of finish off and perhaps sum up and, any message. So the floor's yours for a minute, if there's anything you want to say.
If anybody thinks that Professor Dave is doing anything positive in his latest video, you are either new to the topic, naive, gullible, stupid, or scientifically illiterate. There is nothing in his video that is credible, and if you think it is, well, you're entitled to be stupid. That's the problem in this topic. You're entitled to be stupid.
Okay, is that your finishing note for tonight then, mate?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you again, Tony. I don't know if you're running straight off, or do you want me to drop you in the live waiting room? There's a whole bunch of people in there who may wish to speak to you. It's up to you.
Sure. No, I'm fine. I'm good for half an hour or so.
Okay, I'll drop you over into there. Thank you very much then, Tony. Good to
talk.
No
worries.
Okay, you take care then. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Ooh, I can't pick him up. Let me find him. Okay, he's out of here. Wow. I hope you have all enjoyed that. I honestly did. We knew that we wouldn't agree. It got a little heated at one point, but we both pulled back. And as I said, I think it was respectful, more than respectful enough. Happy to chat to Tony, and I'll happily chat to Tony again. There's a certain other person who I wouldn't be keen to speak to. I have got a whole bunch of people. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, as well as Tony, sat in the waiting room. But I'm not going to be able to bring them on. It's 5 to 11. I've got to be up early in the morning, so I'm going to have to call it a night with regard to that. Osvaldo, thank you. I will straighten it up. Thank you so much for that picture. I absolutely love it. I really do. Very proud of it. And what I especially love is Arnold. He's got little cat's ears on his space helmet. Brilliant. People, thank you for joining me. Mods, thank you for your work. Thank you all for being here, for commenting. Thank you very much, patrons, and thank you very much for all those who super chatted tonight. I really appreciate it. I really do. Not sure when my next video is out, so please, if you haven't, make sure you subscribe and hit those notification bells. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and I'm just going to find my outro because I'm going to have to say goodnight and stay sensible. Take care.